The morning shift had just begun when Ethan Cole, operations director at NorthBridge Administrative Tower, the central hub of a major healthcare network in the Boston area, walked briskly through the gleaming lobby. He greeted two receptionists, nodded to a group of accountants, and turned into the service corridor. Halfway down, he froze as if he'd hit an invisible wall. Standing before him, dressed in her gray uniform and pushing a spotless cleaning cart, was Anna Morales. The cold fluorescent light revealed, without mercy, a bruise swelling across her left cheek, red and purple, the kind that only comes from a blow. Anna tightened the cuffs of her gloves as if they could hold her together. She said nothing. Her eyes stayed fixed on the floor. Anna. Ethan's voice came out deeper than usual, weighted with concern. What happened to you? Who did this? She tried to smile, but the movement hurt. It's nothing, sir. I tripped on the service stairs. Just an accident. Ethan didn't believe her. He had known Anna for 7 years. Ever since she'd been hired, with all her paperwork in order, as she'd proudly emphasized in her interview. A legal permanent resident, hardworking, never late, never complained. Twice named Employee of the Month. But lately, she'd been walking hunched, speaking less, avoiding certain hallways. Come to my office, he said gently. Just 5 minutes. Please. Anna hesitated, then nodded. She parked her cart beside the hydrant and followed him down the corridor. If you love emotional and heartwarming stories, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell, so you'll always be the first to hear our next story. Now, let's begin. On the 19th floor, Ethan's office smelled of fresh coffee and new paper. The Charles River shimmered beyond the glass. He closed the door and pulled out a chair for her, then poured a cup of water. You don't have to answer if you're not ready, he said, calm but firm. But I have to ask. Did someone on the security team put their hands on you? Anna's hands shook around the cup. I don't want any trouble, she whispered. They could make me lose my job. They? Ethan leaned forward. Who, Anna? She looked at her reflection in the polished cabinet. When she finally spoke, the words came like a cut. Victor Harlan. The name hit the room like a stone. Harlan, head of security, had been hired 8 months earlier. Brought in by Richard Whitmore, president of the NorthBridge board. Ex-military, broad-shouldered, disciplined, and arrogant. The kind of man who smiled only with one corner of his mouth and treated service workers like background noise. What did he do? Ethan asked carefully, as though crossing a minefield. He told me to go down to the maintenance basement. Said the cameras caught coffee spilled on the 21st floor carpet. It wasn't me. It was the cart that hit the cup. But... She stopped. When I got down there, he was waiting. He said people like me should remember their place. I tried to explain, but the slap came fast. He pointed his finger at me and said if I opened my mouth, I'd find my way back to nothing. Ethan felt sick. This was more than misconduct, it was violence. And there was a basement, literally, where cameras malfunctioned at just the right times. Anna, he said, steady. This isn't going to stay buried. She shook her head. You don't understand. I'm an immigrant. Legal, yes. Papers, taxes, everything right. But they always find a way to make people like me look guilty. They say we don't know the rules. And you know what's worse? Her voice trembled with anger. People see, and they stay silent. Ethan thought of board meetings with Whitmore, his polished smiles, his corporate speeches about efficiency and risk management, the subtle threats wrapped in professionalism. I hope you'll use your good judgment, Ethan. I'll take care of it, he said. But I need you to trust me. Anna's eyes filled. Not from weakness, but from the courage of someone who had survived too much. "I'll try," she murmured. In the staff cafeteria, Renee Parker, a veteran janitor, nudged Joelle, one of the newer hires, and nodded toward Anna at the far end of the hall. Joelle gasped softly. A security guard walked by. Everyone dropped their gaze. "I heard shouting the other night," Renee whispered. "From the pump room. I was taking out trash. Swore I'd never go down there again." "I believe you," Joelle said. "Harlan cornered Sophia from the night shift last month. Told her she wasn't smiling enough for executives. Locked her in a supply closet for half an hour. She came out pale and shaking. Told me not to say a word." They fell silent as two maintenance men entered. One looked away. The other pretended not to hear. Fear had become part of the uniform. Back upstairs, Ethan logged into the building's security feed. Officially, he needed the head of security's permission to access footage, but his role gave him administrator rights. He opened the camera grid and scanned the morning timeline. Every basement corridor showed a green, OK, icon, except one. Maintenance Room 02B, file unavailable. He clicked. Black screen. Log. File corrupted. The timestamp matched exactly when Anna had been there. Ethan closed his eyes and whispered, "This isn't just violence. It's a cover-up." He jotted down the date, time, and one word in capital letters. Enough. The computer pinged a video call. Monica Healy, head of HR. "Ethan, got a minute to discuss next quarter's budget?" she asked. "The board wants cuts in janitorial contracts. They're suggesting we automate 2 floors with cleaning robots." He exhaled slowly. Not now. But not now was how injustice always survived. "Monica, postpone it 24 hours, he said. "There's a matter of institutional integrity we need to address." "Integrity?" she frowned. "Does this have to do with what people are whispering about?" "It has to do with what we're pretending not to hear," he said, and ended the call. That afternoon, an envelope with no sender appeared at reception. Inside, a typed letter. "I am another victim." It described assaults, threats, and locked doors. Named Harlan. Hinted at emails exchanged with someone higher up. Signed simply one of many. Ethan looked through the glass wall. Down the hall, Whitmore was stepping out of his private elevator. Perfect suit, perfect smile. Beside him, Harlan, rigid as a soldier, made a remark that made Whitmore laugh. Harlan glanced upward, toward Ethan's floor, a man used to knowing who held power. Ethan tightened his grip on the envelope. "It's begun," he thought. "Mr. Harlan, I need to see you immediately," Ethan said through the intercom minutes later. "I have a meeting with President Whitmore," Harlan's calm voice replied. "If it's important, you can speak to both of us." Transparency director. Always a fan of transparency. The irony burned. "Fine," Ethan said. "Bring him with you." Moments later, the door opened. Whitmore entered first, wearing his trademark corporate grin, the kind that said, "I own this room." Harlan followed, expression unreadable. "We've heard some nasty rumors, Ethan," Whitmore began, sitting without invitation. "People invent things when they don't know their place. You know how it is. Our culture works best when everyone stays in their lane." "In their lane," Ethan repeated, eyes locked on Harlan. "Is hitting an employee part of yours?" Harlan didn't flinch. "Who told you that?" "I don't protect abusers," Ethan said coldly. "I protect victims." "Victims?" Whitmore leaned back, feigning disappointment. "Do you have proof? Or are we turning this into some emotional spectacle?" That word proof hung heavy in the air. And then the door opened with a soft click. Anna stood there, fists clenched, her bruised face pale but unbroken. The three men turned toward her. "I have a question," she said, voice trembling but steady. "How many people have to stay silent so you can stay comfortable, Mr. Whitmore?" The president lifted a hand, offended. "You have no authorization to." "Let her speak, Whitmore," Ethan interrupted. "Let her speak." Harlan leaned back, arms crossed, his half-smile returning. "You can say whatever you want, Anna," he said slowly. "But without proof, it's just a bitter immigrant story." That word, immigrant, was spat like a brand meant to diminish her. Anna's breath steadied. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small, worn voice recorder. "I left this on," she said, "right after you hit me. I didn't know if I'd ever be brave enough to use it. But I recorded you when you told everyone to stay quiet." Harlan's eyes widened. He lunged for it, but Ethan stepped in, hand on his chest. "Sit down, Victor." Whitmore's smile vanished for the first time. Anna pressed play. Harlan's voice filled the room. Cold, clear, undeniable. "She already knows she needs to stay quiet. You'd all do well to do the same." The silence that followed was alive. Whitmore blinked 2 seconds too late. Ethan heard his own pulse. "This doesn't prove the assault," Whitmore finally said, pale. "It only proves," Mr. Harlan advised, discretion. "Security work requires." "It proves intimidation," Ethan cut in. "It proves a cover-up. It proves that this place decided who gets to speak and who gets erased." Harlan's jaw clenched, fear flickering across his face for the first time. "I won't be part of this silence," Ethan said quietly. When Anna left the office, still shaking, something in the hallway had changed. Sophia from the night shift stood near the ice machine. Renee was there too. A maintenance man took off his cap as she passed. No one said much, but eyes met. A silent alignment. By evening, for confidential emails reached HR. Accounts of confinement, humiliation, unfair transfers. One included screenshots of Harlan instructing someone to clean up the 02B footage. Another email showed Whitmore replying, "Don't worry, I'll handle it with the team." Teams, plural. Monica Healy, HR director, marked her memo in red, "Convene Ethics Committee urgent." Whitmore, however, made his move. He signed himself on temporary leave for stress, effectively stalling the meeting. But power can't always contain rumor. A 12-second audio clip leaked anonymously to a local news outlet. Within hours, a reporter called for comment. The doors that once demanded keycards began to open to a new kind of credential. Truth. The ethics committee room was set up with glass water pitchers and a tasteful flower arrangement that looked absurd that night. 7 members sat around the table. Monica, pale, carried a stack of testimonies. Ethan requested the floor. "NorthBridge prides itself on delivering health care to vulnerable communities," he began. "But what's on this table?" He lifted the envelope. "Turns that pride into hypocrisy. We heal the public while crushing the people who keep our halls clean. This is not an accident. It's a reflection." He presented the testimonies one by one. No dramatics, just facts. Some sentences made heads bow. Others made them snap upright in shame. Then Monica handed over a printed email. From R. Whitmore / to V. Harlan subject. Before Friday. Highlighted line. Make sure nothing compromising remains from the 02B line. We don't need another hysteria episode. The word sure glowed on the page like a bullet. For 10 seconds, no one spoke. The clock read 9:13 p.m. "I move to immediately remove Victor Harlan from his position," one member said, "and suspend Richard Whitmore pending investigation." "Approved," said the chairwoman, stamping the motion. The next morning was cold, though not yet winter. The city felt as if it needed ice to cool its fever. Harlan received his termination letter with military stiffness. He signed without looking anyone in the eye. Tried to exit through the glass gate. His card no longer worked. He had to wait for IT to unlock it. 2 extra seconds of exposure. 20 years of arrogance distilled into that pause. Whitmore was suspended. His email auto-replied, "Out indefinitely." In the parking lot, a reporter cornered him inside his luxury car. He smiled, muttered about misunderstandings and internal miscommunication. One photo caught the second his smile cracked. Sometimes, a second is all it takes to bring down an empire. News spread fast. Some employees kept their distance. Others quietly covered Anna's shift so she could attend the all-staff meeting that afternoon. The auditorium filled. Gray chairs, polished sound system, NorthBridge's logo shining on the big screen. Ethan stepped to the podium, no notes, no script. Anna stood beside him, hands clasped, her bruise fading to yellow at the edges. "I could say the company is shocked," Ethan began. "But shock is a privilege of those who didn't live it every day. What happened here isn't an incident. It's a mirror. A culture that tolerates humiliation doesn't appear overnight. It's built. And we built it." He paused, letting the silence breathe. "Today, we publicly recognize the courage of Ana Morales. Not just because she was assaulted, though that alone would be enough, but because she refused to stay silent. And in doing so, she gave others permission to speak. Ana, you forced us to see what we didn't want to see." Applause began softly, then grew. An applause that sounded less like noise and more like agreement. Ana stepped forward. The microphone looked enormous in her hands. "I came from Guatemala 11 years ago," she said. "I entered legally with a work visa. I did everything right. Got married. Had a daughter who's now in high school. I'm proud of my job. This uniform keeps buildings like this standing. But for years, I believed my pride had to be quiet so it wouldn't bother anyone. Now I know respect isn't something you whisper for. Respect is something you demand, head held high." She smiled through tears. "And I'm not alone." The whole room rose to its feet. In the months that followed, NorthBridge changed. Not overnight, but truly. Ethan launched an anonymous ethics line linked directly to the committee, mandatory training on workplace violence, and an external audit of all camera systems, especially the ones that never worked. For the first time, janitorial and maintenance staff got seats on the policy board. Posters appeared in hallways. "Look people in the eye." Not a slogan, an oath. Ana was promoted to maintenance supervisor. Not as a token gesture, but because no one knew the building better. She received a raise, fixed hours, and started a mentorship program for new hires. Many of them legal immigrants like herself. On her first day as supervisor, she went down to the basement. The smell of oil and metal carried memories her body hadn't forgotten. But the lights were on now. 2 new cameras blinked quietly. The old closet where she once cried now held labeled equipment. Renee appeared with a clipboard. Sophia followed, standing taller. "Boss?" Renee said with a grin, respect and warmth in equal parts. "Today's route." Ana smiled. The word boss sounded sweet not because it meant power, but because it meant care. "Here's the route," she said, tracing the map. "And if something feels wrong, we speak up. To me, to Ethan, to the committee, to whoever we must. We speak." That night at home, Ana opened the window. Her daughter Maria was doing homework at the table. The scent of chicken and rice filled the small apartment. On the fridge, a magnet with an M for both their names. Ana touched her forehead to the cool glass. She remembered her first job interview at NorthBridge. The nervous English, the sweaty palms, the words lawful permanent resident that had felt like solid ground. She remembered how easily that ground could shake, but also how it could hold firm again. "Mama," Maria said without looking up. "My teacher asked us to write about our hero. Can I write about you?" Anna laughed softly. "If you write about me, then I'll have to write about you." "Me? Why?" "Because when I wanted to stay silent, I thought of your face reading through a hard page and not giving up. And I realized no one silences a home where both hearts learn to say what's right." Maria smiled. Anna kissed the top of her head and looked out at Boston's lights coming on one by one. A city doesn't change by decree. It changes voice by voice. Months later, the state labor audit released its report. NorthBridge was commended for transforming a culture of fear into a model of ethical accountability, initiated by a maintenance employee, an exemplary legal immigrant. It praised the administration's swift action and recommended the NorthBridge Protocol as a national reference. On Ethan's desk, taped to the wall, was a newspaper headline, "When Courage Has a Name." He left it there, not for pride, but to remember the mornings when courage had none, and silence had. Whitmore eventually resigned. "A personal shift in focus," said the statement. Some applauded. Others simply turned the page. Harlan faced charges of workplace assault and coercion. His name vanished from every directory, like a shadow erased by a light that refused to turn off. At NorthBridge, people began doing small things again, straightening crooked frames, holding doors open, saying good morning with real attention. Small things, quiet things, but together they kept the moral basement from growing back. One evening, after a long day, Anna walked through the lobby with her jacket folded over her arm. The new security guard, young, polite, opened the door and smiled. "Good night, Supervisor Morales." She smiled back, warmth rising in her chest. "Good night. Thank you." Outside, the Atlantic wind swept through the city streets, carrying the certainty that some things, like dignity, aren't luxuries. They're foundations. Anna lifted her chin, tightened her grip on her bag, and crossed the street. And as the traffic light blinked green, a thought formed quietly in her mind. Sometimes the greatest collapse of a system begins with the first whisper that refuses to die. And sometimes that whisper has a name and a last name. Anna Morales. From his office window on the 19th floor, Ethan watched her turn the corner. He didn't know if she'd ever have her name on a plaque. It didn't matter. The only plaque that counted was already etched where no institution could erase it. In the memory of everyone who saw dignity walk into a room and say, "Let me speak." Down in basement 02B, 2 cameras recorded silently. There was nothing to hide that night. Even the silence sounded different. No longer fearful, but peaceful. Because what holds a building upright isn't its steel beams. It's the invisible agreement that no one will ever again be pushed out of their own voice. And as the elevator doors closed, catching her reflection for a heartbeat before sealing, the city outside seemed to breathe just a little easier, as if every injustice exposed had lifted one more brick from the wall between appearance and truth. That was the part no one could ever erase.